Hello, everyone, and welcome to our town hall meeting today. This is the last one for summer, and we'll be breaking in July and August. Our speaker cannot stay too long with us, so that's why I'd like to dive into our topic for today. Our speaker is Steve Gurney, who is the founder of the Positive Aging community and creator of the Positive Aging SourceBook, which is a comprehensive resource launched in 1990 to help older adults, families, and professionals navigate retirement living, assisted living, nursing, rehab, and home care options. Drawing from his personal experience supporting his own aging grandfather, Steve has dedicated his career. Can you mute yourself, please?
Really?
Sorry, I will be muting you, Pam. So Steve dedicated his career to providing trusted information and building networks that empower older adults to make informed decisions about aging in place or making a move to senior living communities. Steve, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, I'm so excited to meet all of you all and have a chat today. And as Tara had mentioned, I got kind of a busy schedule today, so I'm going to hang on for as long as I can and try to go the full 45 minutes. But I may have to either jump off or fiddle with my phone a little bit when we get close to 30 minutes. So. Thank you for the introduction. And something that I've been doing recently is, what's frustrating to me is when I go to a conference or I'm on a webinar and I'm signed up for it because the title sounds really good. So this title is Aging in Place or Making a Move, Making the Right Choice for You and Your Loved One. That's why everybody tuned in today. But then I have to listen to the speakers talk for, 30, 40 minutes. And I've got this question that I knew that I wanted answered right when I came in the door. And so what I'd like to do before I've got a PowerPoint and I can go through some points and share some resources with you that I know that will be valuable. But I'd love to hear from anybody who's brave enough right now, either type into the chat or open up your mic and share with me some of the questions or concerns that you may have coming to this meeting today on this topic as we've advertised it. And while you're doing that, here I'm gonna share with you. People really like this. So I've been in this business of senior living for over 35 years. I got into it because I observed my family taking care of my grandfather. And I've been regarded as this expert in senior housing. Okay. And I realized one day that how could I be an expert in something that I've never experienced firsthand myself? And so I'm 59 now, but when I was 43, I actually moved and lived temporarily in 5 different senior living communities. And so while you're thinking about my challenge to you, if you've got any questions or if you've got any things that I can address like right now up front, I'm going to play a quick video of you to share with you one of the moves that I made with into a senior living community, and we'll let you see that. And so hopefully, Tara, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. I can see it.
All right.
Yeah.
So here.
Mhm.
A new journey for Steve Gurney and his son Asa. It is one they likely will take in the coming years, but decided to get a taste of early.
Can you make the volume louder?
Very positive, but there's a lot of anxiety.
Steve is 43 years old. Asa is 6. He likes
Okay, where are we at here? Okay. Let's try that again.
Mhm.
A new journey for Steve Gurney and his son Asa. It is one they likely will take in the coming years, but decided to get a taste of early.
Going through these experiences that are very positive, but there's a lot of anxiety.
Steve is 43 years old. Asa is 6. He likes to play with Pokemon cards. For the next 7 days, their home will be the residences at Thomas Circle in Northwest Washington. It's a retirement community.
I think it's absolutely wonderful. I think it's good for the youngsters, and it's good for us, too.
Steve founded the Guide to Retirement Living SourceBook 20 years ago. He became known as an expert in senior living. But there was a problem.
What I realized last year was that I'm an expert in a field where I've never experienced it myself.
So he decided to take on an immersion project where he lives full-time with seniors.
You're 83 years old from your
Young.
experience, and you're 83 years young.
Yes.
Yes.
Residents like Mary Washington are excited to host the Gurneys. They suspect they can teach them a thing or two.
But I've learned a lot more from the people who live here now, because there have been places I've never been. And that's very important, I think, to stimulate young people.
The goal of the project is for Gurney and his son to learn from the seniors who live here, but the residents say they expect to learn a few things as well.
How helpful it is to them, and can we help any more? Because it's really an educational program we're both involved with.
If experience is the best teacher, Steve Gurney hopes to show that the younger generation has willing and able resources to learn from.
All right. So hopefully you got a kick out of that. And I gave you a little bit of time. So is there any questions, concerns, or things that you really want me to address on this topic of aging in place or making a move? If not, I got tons of stuff that I can share, but I don't want to be accused of not giving you the opportunity to jump in and guide the discussion to help you individually. All right. I'm going to take that silence and nothing in chat as a, go on, Steve, tell us what you got. But I'm going to tell you at any point during my discussion, I want you to interrupt me with your questions. Okay, so after I made that move to these senior communities, which I will tell you, one of the reasons that I did it is that I hear a phrase every day of the week. I've heard it every day of the week for 35 years. And it's like, oh, Steve, I'm not ready for any place like that. I'm not ready. And it could be a retirement community. It could be putting grab bars up in your bathroom. It could be getting hearing aids. The phrase that I hear more often than not is, I'm not ready for that. And so one of the things that I wondered is that we're going to talk about is, why are people saying I'm not ready? Why is there a large group of people that are adverse to making decisions in this aging space? And I'm going to address that. But first, what I want to address is I created this stool that you see on the screen after I made these moves into the senior living community. Because what I observed is that my neighbors that I was living with, they were living in these communities because one or all four of the legs of this stool were getting weak. And so I'm just going to quickly address these, but the most important thing that I want to address is the seat of the school, living with meaning and purpose. So today's discussion, I don't want you to think that we're talking about old folks' homes and grab bars and hearing aids and all of those things that people are hesitant to think about. I want you to think about this discussion today as, how am I going to live with purpose? Okay. And what are some tools that I can use to live the most meaningful and purposeful life possible in light of changes in my health, in changes of my family and my situation. Okay. So the four legs of the stool are first, getting around. Okay. If we live in a suburban car dependent neighborhood where we need to get into our personal automobile and get to the things that provide meaning or purpose, and we don't want to drive, or we shouldn't drive, or we can't drive anymore, that compromises our purpose. Okay. Second is our mobility. If we live in a home where our bedroom is at the top of stairs and it hurts every time, or it's dangerous getting up and down those stairs to get into bed each night, that compromises our purpose. The next one that I think is very important is our personal village. If I love my home and my neighborhood that I live in, but I'm not connected to my neighbors anymore, or I don't feel like I have personal connections in my community, that compromises our sense of person. That's our personal village. And last but not least, and I hate talking about this, it's our cognitive health. Is that, folks, we have what I'm going to just refer to as an epidemic out there, and it's called dementia, Alzheimer's, and cognitive impairment. And none of us have a crystal ball. There's lots of things we can do that might slow or prevent this. And for some of us, we may never be impacted by cognitive impairment or dementia. But what I can tell you in talking to hundreds, if not thousands, of families and individuals is that if our cognitive health changes, that can compromise our purpose, and that can make it exceptionally difficult to age in place safely. Okay, so I'll probably be referring to the stool throughout our journey today, but I wanted to introduce this concept right up front. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to talk about is how I view the world. I view the world of this, what I'm going to call this aging ecosystem, in three distinct buckets. And I'm going to go through each of these buckets. The first bucket is aging in place. The second bucket is making a move. And the third bucket are resources that can help us navigate or understand or provide services to us. And I would sort of posit that this call, the prevention of, I always botch, prevention of blindness society, is an amazing bucket, an amazing resource in the resources bucket. Okay, so let's dive into this in a little more detail. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is aging in place, and here's the news flash. That's what everybody wants to do. AARP has been doing a study since the beginning of time that have basically said that most Americans want to age in place and stay right where they are right now for as long as they possibly can. And that's wonderful. And I talk to hundreds and hundreds of people when I throw out the question, what do you want to do? Age in place and move? Oh, no, they don't even let me get the question out. Oh, I want to stay right here. I say, well, that's great. What are you doing to implement an aging in place plan for yourself? And they say, well, Steve, I don't need that. I'm out playing pickleball, doing shots at the bar. I meet my best friend at Starbucks every day. Why do I need to think about aging in place? And then number one, how do I think about creating an aging in place plan? Okay, I told you I was going to refer to that stool. Here's how you create an aging in place plan. And I'm making this easy on everybody, okay? Like, you don't need to go out and hire somebody. You don't need to download some kind of app. All that stuff is available, but I'm going to make this really easy on how you create an aging in place plan right now in your home. And you could do it this afternoon. And we're going to go back to that four-legged stool. The first thing that I'm going to challenge you to is that how do you get around now, and how would you get around if you didn't have access to your own personal automobile? Now, for those of you on the call that live in the city and may have never owned an automobile, guess what? You don't even need to think about this. You've been living this lifestyle your entire life. But for those that may be in a suburban neighborhood where they're getting in a car on a daily basis, I sort of posed the challenge. It's like, what would you do if you didn't have that car, if you couldn't drive anymore? What would your life look like? And I was pleased. I gave this talk a few months ago, and I had a woman call me after the call, after I gave the talk, a month or so after I gave the talk, and she said, "Your talk really inspired me." And guess what I did? I just lived for a week without using my car, relying on friends, using public transportation. I learned about a volunteer ride program in my community. And the the good news is I think I could make it if I didn't have a car. The bad news is it requires a lot more planning, but I'm glad that I did this week without a car because I know how much goes into it. Okay? So, now our next our next leg of the stool on aging in place is our mobility. Okay, is that what would happen to us? And I'm saying myself, what would happen if if I was in an accident and I was in a wheelchair or I had a mobility issue? How am I going to get around this house that I'm in right now? And what does that look like? And I will give you a news flash. Right now in the Washington area, there are hundreds of people that were discharged from the hospital and their doctor gave them a choice. You can have your rehab in a nursing home or you can have a rehab at home. And we all know the answer that a lot of those people say, "Oh, I want to go home." Well, guess what? Because their bedroom is on the third floor, they're now living in a hospital bed in their dining room with a commode. And for some people, that's okay. But for others, that's not a dignified way of living. And that's not a purposeful life. And the fact is that if we think about this in advance, we can make modifications to our home in the event that something happened and we needed to live on the first floor. Now we can do it in a more dignified way. And so that's the other leg of the stool. Now, the next leg, our personal health. There are our personal village. There are amazing community organizations out there. There's an initiative called the Village Movement, and in most neighborhoods in the Washington area, there are essentially clubs that we can join where they're grassroots efforts that support aging in place and bringing community together of volunteers and support. And so, as we take an inventory on our current personal village, our neighbors, our family, our friends, if we see weaknesses, we can tap into other resources that are out there. Okay. Now, last but not least, we've got cognitive health. And one thing that I will tell you is that I don't know if anybody on the call has cared for somebody with dementia at home, but there's a book that's out there. It's called The 36-Hour Day. And many times that's the way that somebody who's caring for a loved one with dementia describes it. And we recognize that our loved ones may or may not be willing to go to a memory care community. We may or may not be able to afford that. We may have to take care of them at home. And a resource that I want to turn you on to is called adult daycare. This is the most amazing resource out there for people that are caring for a loved one with dementia at home. Is that during the day, an individual can go to a center where there are trained staff on working with people with dementia. They can be engaged in activities and purposeful purposeful lifestyle, and then come home at night, and now the caregiver at home gets a respite. The person with dementia is probably worn out from an activity-based day, and then we're only concerned about their well-being at night. So those are some of I kind of walked you through a journey of aging in place. On the screen, I've got some things to think about. Trans. I'm gonna finish on household maintenance, but we got transportation. There's a service out. There's volunteer rideshare services in every community. There's a great program called Go Go Grandparents that enables you to get Uber and Lyft rides without using a cell phone. You could literally use a rotary dial phone for that. There are professionals out there that can help make our homes safe and accessible. There is home care that can provide everything from skilled nursing to hospice on to just simple companionship and preparing meals. And I mentioned adult daycare. Also, a lot of the smart home technology can be implemented in our homes, make that more accessible and safe. Okay, but I'm going to finish on aging in place with one important question. And I'm not asking you guys for the answer. It's a hypothetical question. When we think about aging in place, a lot of times it's easy to say I'm not ready yet when I'm talking about adult daycare and grab bars and putting stair glides in our home and how am I going to live without a car? But I want to ask one fundamental question. How would you safely unscrew and screw in a new light bulb in the center of the ceiling of your room? Okay? Because this is a fundamental aging in place question. Is that even at age 59, when I get on a stool or a ladder to unscrew that light bulb, I realize that I could be one step away from a nursing home if I fall doing that. Also, if I leave the light burned out and I go into a dark room, I could trip and end up in a nursing home. And so, who am I going to get to screw in this light bulb? Well, there's that's something that I've talked to dozens of people who their strategy is, well, I host Thanksgiving every year and my kids come to my house and that's when we screw in all the light bulbs. Or it's, oh, I just let them go dark and I carry a flashlight around. Or, yeah, I can get up on a stool, and make that happen. And what you realize is that the light bulb represents household maintenance projects that make our house safe and accessible, that also, if we do them ourselves, we could be compromising our safety. And so this is a really big challenge is that, and one of the things that I challenge folks to is, identifying, it could be a volunteer group, it could be a helpful neighbor, it could be, scheduling something with a loved one to come by on a monthly basis and just make sure everything's cool with the house. So think about those things. But the thing that I don't want anybody on this call to do is say, I'm aging in place and leave it at that. Like, because that's not a strategy. That's just hope. Okay. At least think about, what if my life changed? What if one of those four legs of the stool became a little bit weak? What is my strategy going to be to effectively age in place? Okay, so now I'm going to talk about we've thought about aging in place. We've exhausted, we've got a plan, but at some point in time, all of us may want to think about, would my life be more purposeful if I made a move? And now I'm going to talk about the various choices that are out there for making a move. The first one, you've never heard of it before because I made up the name, and it's a smart lifestyle community. And the reason I made up this name is that I've been publishing this guide for 35 years, and from time to time, I will get a call from somebody that says, Steve, I went by and I toured all the places that are in your book, and I'm just not ready for any of these yet. And as I dive deeper into those conversations, oftentimes it's because I don't want to move to an age segregated community. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to share with you is before I talk about the well, yeah, let me talk about this. It is that the reason that many people are hesitant and they don't understand why they don't want to move to a senior community is because it's segregated housing. So right now, most of us, myself included, live on a street or in a building where black, white, young, old, married, single, divorced, gay, straight live together. Okay. There's only one legally segregated housing concept out there that's left, and that's we can build communities and segregate young people out of them. Okay. And often when I'm talking to people and I just introduce this concept, they're sort of like, oh wow, that's why I'm hesitant to move to these communities. I never understood why. And so the that's why I created this category, smart lifestyle community. So what a smart lifestyle community is, that is an apartment, a condo, a home that has many of the components of a senior living community in terms of being accessible, in terms of not needing a car, in terms of being close to a grocery store. Um, but it doesn't have the sign out front that says senior living community. So if you drive around your neighborhood, you may see like an apartment building with a Harris Teeter underneath it. That's an example of a smart lifestyle community. It's not age segregated, but living there could be lower maintenance, more carefree, and less car dependent. Okay, let me quickly go through these different categories, and then I'd love to answer any questions that y'all have. The first category of housing is active adult communities. These are, I think most of you are in the Washington area. These are like Leisure World is a great example of an active adult community. Generally, a gated community where you buy a condo or a home inside. They have lots of clubs and activities for older adults or for people in general, but they don't have healthcare or any of those services. So if you needed help, assistance, you'd be in the same boat that you would be if you were living in your own home, except for, in general, these services are regularly going into these active adult communities. Okay, so then the next category of housing that is available is called independent living. These are generally apartment buildings designed for independent older adults. They may or may not have meals and activities. They may or may not be subsidized. There's a lot of subsidized independent living communities, and there's communities that are like living in a hotel around the clock. The next category after that is assisted living. Assisted living is designed for folks that aren't capable of living independently, but don't need the level of care provided in a nursing home. Now, assisted living comes in all shapes and sizes. There are small residential assisted livings that, could be in your neighborhood and you don't even know it. And then there are large communities that we drive by on a regular basis. Now, a subset of assisted living is memory care. Memory care communities are designed for folks that don't necessarily need a nursing home, but they have a cognitive impairment and they are living in a secure environment with trained staff and engaging activities for people with cognitive impairment. Now, the next category of housing we're all familiar with, nursing homes. The thing that you may not be familiar about nursing homes is most of us, if we need a nursing home, it's going to be for a short stay rehabilitation, not for a long-term stay. Most people that need nursing homes are folks that have an accident or an injury. They go from the hospital for some good rehab in a nursing home, and then they're discharged back home or to an assisted living community. a lot of the stigma that I personally have and that many people have is that you had a loved one that was living in a nursing home long term, and that wasn't a desirable situation. And there's less and less of that out there now. The long-term care is being provided primarily in assisted living. Now, the last category of housing I'm going to talk about are continuing care, life care communities. These are communities that take independent, assisted, and nursing, put them all on one campus, and the concept is that individuals can live their entire lifespan in that community. So, here's some tips and perspective. First off, I want you to think. I want you to um, and I'll go through these real quick. Um, it's not an old folks home that you're looking at if you or your loved ones are looking at these communities. I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do with our stuff. I'm going to talk about the location of the community and getting involved. I'm going to talk about solo aging. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about not uh, walking this road alone. So first thing I want you to do, if you or a loved one is thinking about a senior living community, is I want you to think about like a college kid. When a college kid walks onto campus, they don't care about the square footage of their dorm room or anything. They look at the staff and they look at the faculty. I mean, they look at the students and they look at the faculty. And when we go to senior communities, I want you to pretend that it's a college. I want you to look at the residents who are the students, and I want you to look at the faculty who's the staff. And I want you to get to know them. Are these people that have similar interests or things that I'm interested in? And one challenge that you can provide is when you're touring these places, make a list of all your hobbies and interests, and engage, ask to meet some people that have similar interests. The next thing that I'm going to talk about when we talk about going down this journey is what to do with our stuff. We've all got stuff, and oftentimes, if we're moving from one place to another, it can paralyze us on what to do with that stuff. So the concept that I want to introduce you to briefly is the concept of Swedish death cleaning. Let's figure out where all of our stuff should go when we're gone, so that the people that come into our home when we're gone don't need to go through that difficult decision. One thing that we can do really easily with our stuff is take pictures and make videos of it, so that if we do give it away, sell it, or throw it away, we can look at the pictures and relive those memories, or generations behind us can relive those memories. The next thing I'm going to talk about when we talk about making a move is location and involvement. I highly encourage people to, I get the question all the time, what's the best place for me or my mom to move to? And I tell them, the best place is the one that's in your own neighborhood right now, that your family and friends can visit you, or that you can visit your mom on a daily basis. Get involved. Drawing another analogy to schools is that we don't just drop our kids off at schools and expect them to have the best education. We get to know their teachers, we join the PTA, we get involved in the community. The next topic that I'm going to bring up is solo aging. It's the most popular topic on our platform. Everybody is a solo ager, by the way. I'm a solo ager. Even though I've got a wife and 2 kids, I am almost certain that my wife and I are not going to die on the same day at the same hour. One of us will outlive the other and be solo. And my 2 kids, quite frankly, I don't want them taking care of me, and I don't think they want to take care of me either. So I need to come up with a solo aging plan. And part of a solo aging plan is taking an inventory of that personal village that I described. Is that making a list of all the people in my life and what can I do for them and what could they do for me if my needs changed. Now, last but not least, you don't need to walk this road alone. There are literally hundreds of resources out there, like the Prevention of Blindness Society, that are out there in a variety of segments, and I'm going to quickly go through them. First, you've got a lot of government programs. Area agencies on aging. There's an area agency on aging in every county of this country, and they serve as a great place to start if you're looking for resources. We've got healthcare related resources that are out there, like the Prevention of Blindness Society. But if you've got Parkinson's, if you've got cancer, if you've got hearing loss, joining groups like Prevention of Blindness Society and tapping into the resources in the community that surrounds them is a great place to start. Nonprofits and faith-based organizations are another great place where we don't need to walk the road alone. I can tell you I've had literally hundreds of conversations with pastors and rabbis and other faith-based leadership that are constantly trying to serve as a resource for their members. And then we have a whole crop of professionals that you may have never heard of: elder law, daily money management, aging life care managers, patient advocates that are out there so that we don't need to walk this road alone. Now, first off, the other thing is, and I'm going to drop my contact information into chat. I love connecting with folks, whether it be on a call like this or one-on-one. And I invite everyone who's on the call that if you'd like to schedule time with me, you're more than happy. I just dropped my info in there to chat. I'd also invite you, if you don't have a copy of the Positive Aging SourceBook, we've got a great article that spotlights the Prevention of Blindness Society in there. You can get free copies, as many as you like. And I am just going to drop the order form there. And I know that my phone is blowing up because I got this other meeting, but you guys are so important to me. I want to make sure that I answer any questions that you all might have. But in the interim, I am dropping in the link to the chat. So are there any questions, anything specific that anybody has? And like I said, I've got all of my contact in there if you wanted to reach out.
Thank you, Steve. This was really a lot of information and many things to think about. And many of us, I'm sure, think about these things. So I invite everyone, if you have any questions for Steve, please go ahead, unmute yourselves, or just put something in the chat. Steve, I have a question, like, what is the right age to start thinking about the move?
So what I will tell you is that you'd be shocked that, like, I think you should start thinking about the move today, okay, regardless of what your age is. But I'll tell you, when a lot of people's eyes open up to this is when they help a loved one, a neighbor, or somebody in their faith-based community make a transition who did not think about it, who was not prepared. Now, the good news is, folks, just showing up to this discussion, if you do nothing else, if you've got this information in the back of your head, you're doing way more than a lot of people that are out there. The fact you're brave enough to tune into this discussion is you've already taken the first step. If you want to make some more tangible, planning things, go ahead and do that. But the sooner that we all think about this, the better, because we all know somebody who was, 35 years old and they landed themselves in a nursing home through an auto accident. Like, none of us have a crystal ball. We all know people that woke up one morning, got a diagnosis of cancer. We've all heard about people in their 40s and 50s that got dementia. Like, so, but the challenge with this is that everybody is planning for what I hope happens to me. You know what I hope happens to me? I hope that I die on my 85th birthday after I rode my bike all day, had a great meal with my family. I went to sleep and I just didn't wake up. That is what I hope happens. But I might get lucky. Okay. I don't know what's going to happen, but if I address those four legs of the stool, if I at least talk to the people around me and say, hey, look, if I can't drive anymore, would you give me a ride someplace? Or, hey, if I can't drive anymore, maybe I should figure out how the buses work in this neighborhood, you know.
We have a quiet audience today.
You really do. Gosh, I mean,
Yeah.
I know, listen, I've been giving this talk for 35 years. So I basically answer every question before it's asked. You know,
Yeah.
and that's why I started the way that I did. I wanted to see if there was questions that people had before they even heard what I had to say.
Mhm.
I know you guys, I know it's a lot to absorb. The good news is you've got this recording. You can share that with your friends. You can order the source books. I got your links there, proaging.com. You can order these for free of charge. Tara can give them to you as
Yeah.
well. And I urge you to just reach out and don't be afraid to make don't be afraid to think about this stuff. Okay. Listen, I'm legally blind in one eye. I've been that way my entire life. Okay. I know some of you joined Prevention of Blindness Society because maybe you lost your vision at some point in your life. You didn't plan for that to happen. You never expected that to happen. And if I told you 20 years ago that you were going to start losing your vision, why don't you think about how you would live your life with lower vision? You'd think I was crazy. Okay. But, you know, now that you've experienced it, you've joined a community, you know that there's resources out there. You can you know begin making steps if another change occurred in your life similar to decreased vision. Okay, I'm Tara. Since nobody's
Yeah.
shouting out, I'm going to jump off, and I'd love to come back and talk about anything in detail here. Like if you want me to dive into downsizing or solo aging or any of that stuff, and we can do an hour on that.
Steve, thank you very much for joining us today. And yeah, it's recorded and people can listen to it later on. I think we have people who are unmuted. Dick, do you want to go ahead?
Well, you've, by the way, thank you, thank you. This was a great thought. Um, Change is hard, and facing that decision to change is really hard. And I thank Steve for talking about how to make the decision. Since I Tuesday excuse me, Tuesday was my 10th anniversary of moving to a retirement CCRC.
Oh, wow. Holy cow. You could give this talk.
Well, there are some things I'd like to add, if that's okay.
Yeah. And actually, if you don't mind, I mean, these people are they're gonna kill me if I don't get on this call. I can
You go,
drop
Steve.
off. I
Okay.
can drop off
Yeah.
but Dick, share your experience of moving to the community with everybody else
Yeah.
on the call.
Mhm.
I think you're a better speaker than I am, and I haven't even heard you talk. Okay, we'll see y'all. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Steve.
Steve.
Take care.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Go
Now,
ahead, Dick. We'd love to listen.
yeah, the once we got to thinking about living in a three-story house, 4 bedrooms, the kids are gone, uh, got to cut the grass, got to do this, got to do that, and we got to say, well, I'll think about it for the next 5 or 10 years and then make the decision. Well, 5 years later, yeah, we'll wait 5 or 10 years, and we kept da-da. Well, in our mid 70s, we thought about what our parents did to us, me and my wife. They did nothing, and they left us with a lot to do. And that's just not fun. We decided, my wife and I decided we were going to make some decisions that were going to help our kids, our two sons, not have to make all of the hard decisions. So we got a trust, we got organized, we got this, we got that. And finally we said, well, let's go look at some retirement communities. And we did. We went as far south as Fredericksburg, where our three granddaughters live. And we found that each of the care levels were in different organizations. So if we got into independent living and then found out that we needed assistance because we couldn't handle some of the activities of daily living, um, we'd have to get out of the community we were in. We had to get into the community we wanted to go to. And then the nursing, and then, and so each of those things were available, but not all in one place. We wanted to make the last move sooner than waiting. So many examples of people saying, well, I don't want to do that right now. Yeah, well, maybe so. But if you wait until the family drags you kicking and screaming into a retirement community, you're not going to enjoy it. A whole new set of friends, a whole new set of processes that we are part of. So now that Steve has talked about the how to make the decision, the things that I think you ought to look at when you're making the decision. First of all, there are two kinds of communities: for-profit, not-for-profit. Not-for-profit to us meant that when we moved in, any adjustments we made to the living unit, we paid for. But it was all tax deductible because it's a non-profit, not-for-profit community. If we were to move into a for-profit community where the management has to pay pay people who are investors, that would not have been a tax write-off. Go visit many communities. You want not only to go to their marketing luncheons and that sort of thing, but you want to pop in, make an arrangement with one of the residents that you saw at a previous meeting. You want to come back to places that you thought you might be interested in. There are some that you're going to find as soon as you walk in the door, this is just not where we're going to fit in as a family, because your new community becomes your family. Your kids are off doing their thing, you're off doing your thing, and the interactions between the family are fun, but they become less frequent. So, first of all, look at the financials. You want to be able to compare oranges to oranges and apples to apples. And you have to dig deeply into the financial statements and so forth, so that you know that when you go make an application to a community, you know what you're getting into. You know how the monthly fees are and what they cover and what they don't cover, because there are ancillary fees even in our community that, for instance, we have a health center. We have a full-time nurse staff on for a clinic. We have visiting doctors that come in on a weekly basis, and we have primary care doctors who are full-time available here. There's so many things that you need to look at, and you need to go through several of the communities several times so that you begin to be, either you feel like, yep, this could be a new family, this could not be a new family. And it depends too on, are you, for instance, our place here has about a little under 400 residents. There are communities that have 4,000 residents. So, are you a number or are you a person? Depends on what you want. So I'm open for questions too, now that I've had my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Dick. This was really important. We have owner who's unmuted. I don't know who it is. Or
Oh,
maybe
that's me. I'm Bonnie. I was just wondering, where is the community you are living in, sir?
We
Is it
are
Carolina?
living at Westminster at Lake Ridge, Virginia, which is a suburb of
Yeah.
Woodbridge.
Huh? Thank you.
Yeah. And they have a low vision group, Bonnie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes, they do.
We have a low vision group. We have a mobility group. We have 4 or 5 different card games. We have local bands that come by and entertain us on a frequent basis. Our weekly agenda, I'm sorry, our weekly schedule covers one full 8.5 by 11 page in 2 columns. The
Wow.
backside of
Great.
that, the backside of that is the things that are going to happen in the next week or 2.
Okay, great. Any other questions from anyone or any comments? I know it's a shorter meeting than usual, but it was a heavy one. A lot of information, and I mean, a topic that we all think about in our lives.
Steve did a really good presentation of what
Yeah.
you should look at in the process of making the decision. What I'm,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
once you've made the decision, then there are some of these other things that you need to delve into.
That's true. So if no one has any comments or questions, I would like to tell you about 2 events we have in July. The first one is in person at the Beatley Library in Alexandria. And my colleague Rachel will be discussing the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. So whoever's interested in getting these glasses or has one and has questions about the glasses, please join us at the Beatley Library on July 11 at 1 o'clock. The other one is a virtual event. Again, July 11 at 11 o'clock is our POB Reads, our book club. And we'll be talking about a book called Nickel. For more information, just call me or I can send you the email about that information, about the book we'll be reading. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. Yes, Bonnie?
One more question.
Sure.
Just a reminder of where is the Beatley Library when? It's July.
It's July 11 at 1 o'clock. And the address is You got the address.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Enjoy your summer and see you back at the town hall in September.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.